Good afternoon and welcome to another present. Good afternoon and welcome to another presentation from Darwin Innovation Hub. Just getting everything set up because I'm zooming, I'm live streaming, I'm going to all sorts of directions here. So I'm just going to make sure I get all those set up correctly so we can get going. And now we're live on Zoom as well. So thank you for joining us. I've just got to get the screen shared over on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube as well. Today we're talking about personal branding and how that's going to work for you. So how we look at how that's going to work is going to be, I guess the question that we need to answer is, what is a personal brand? How does it work? Why is it suddenly so important? And why do we feel so bad in the way that we do it? Like, why does it always feel like it's just such a bad thing to be doing, even though there's completely nothing wrong with it at all? So at the moment, the screen's doing some weird stuff. So I just got to get the right screen up and hopefully we'll be away. There we go. All right, so we're going to learn how to build that personal brand and how to turn it into something that's going to help you convert clients over to what it is you're trying to achieve in business or maybe even in your career. Quick one today, only 30 minutes. We're going to look at the difference between being an influencer and a personal brand. We're going to look at more than just photos and videos, credibility, authority, thought leadership, which is a scary concept for a lot of people, and the idea that things are a little bit different when you're a product business than when you're, say, a service business. Just going to check my screens again, make sure everything's working. Yes, it appears to be. So we're back again in a second. Here we go. So a bit about me. I work with Darwin Innovation Hub, my own agency, Clickstarter, which is pivoted in the last couple of years from being a web and digital marketing agency to a training business. Also a top voice on LinkedIn, work with Meta as one of their contracted trainers in Australia and New Zealand. I work as a contracted trainer with Public Sector Network and with True Blue in the Northern Territory, a complete IT and digital marketing firm that I add my strategic value to as well. So here we're looking at, I guess, what personal branding is in comparison to being an influencer, because a lot of us will just think, well, isn't it just being an influencer? Isn't it just an influencer? It's a little bit more nuanced than that, because a personal brand is a lot about reputation. Influencers a lot of the time have terrible reputations, but that's part of the reason why you follow them. A personal brand, on the other hand, is what people say about you when you're not in the room. And that can be said for any kind of brand, but it's more specific to a personal brand when you are very personally talked about. It's about your personality, your expertise coming together to form a set of values. And we'll talk a bit more about what those are. That your values are very much at the core of what differentiates you from every other person out there. Then we look at business. Every business owner has a brand, whether they like it or not. Whether you feel comfortable with that or not, you've already got one. So I guess that when you're talking about a personal brand, it's a way of systematizing. That's a horrible word, but systematizing control of that brand rather than letting it just evolve of its own accord. You're directing it. You're giving it a bit more of an intentional push rather than just letting it happen. An influencer, though, is usually a content creator, sometimes has a large following, likes to partner with other brands, which can tend to put them in a position where they're influencing people's purchasing decisions based upon who's paying them to be influencing people. It could also be something to do with, being internet famous rather than actually being good or somehow decent at what they're doing. Just because you're an influencer doesn't mean you're an expert, but usually a personal brand is associated with a little bit of expertise. So because it's reputation based, you would have to think that the things you're talking about would probably be things that you are experienced at, that you have some kind of level of influence, or not that's influence, but expertise at, rather than just simply being in a position where you say things and people just follow them blindly. So that's the influencer. The personal brand, though, is more about trust, about credibility, and a longer term reputation that goes beyond just a simple viral video that makes you popular for a second. In fact, a personal brand isn't necessarily popular. A personal brand often is just hyper targeted towards a specific set of people, not any one particular person, but maybe a set of people, and it's made for them. It's also less about follower count and more about visibility. So when you're visible, so a friend of mine who I follow quite closely online, Jade Warren, who does an incredible work at being visible herself, but also making other people visible through photography, videography, and the use of a lot of tools that help to, again, that word, systematize that. Is very, very good at this. She's very, very visible herself and has systems in place that support that visibility. Her personal brand, I'd say, is one of the better ones I've seen on LinkedIn. The followers count is nowhere near as impacting in a personal brand, simply because you don't need to attract a whole lot of people in order to get a brand deal so that a few extra tubs of skincare lotion can be sold by the person who's paying for you to be an influencer. You don't need a lot of followers. And that's the great advantage about personal brand, that without a lot of followers, you can still be very effective and kind of make good money out of it too. It's a very different approach to influencing. It's more who you are and less about who you're performing to be. Why it matters to have a personal brand these days is because clients are attracted to people they trust. And that goes to that whole know, like, trust process. People need to know who you are first. That's visibility. Then they will like you. That's a rapport that you're building, a personal touch. And finally, they'll trust you because you have been able to not only just hit them up with a sale, hey, buy this thing, but you developed some kind of relationship that can be, it can be coffee catch-ups, it can be networking, it can be a personal friendship. But most often what it is, it's consistency of showing up online in the area that you have expertise in. You also then build a community around this. Influencers don't tend to build communities. They'll call it a community, but really what it is adoring fans who love everything they do. A community of a personal brand is less concerned about adoration and more concerned about value. What value does this person bring to me? Again, that's very different to an influencer. And you don't need to dance on TikTok to build credibility. In fact, in a lot of professional settings, that would probably, whilst it probably these days wouldn't discredit you, it certainly probably doesn't help to give you credibility unless you're training people how to be TikTok dancers. And then that's a whole different industry. One thing they realize, though, that, and this is where some of the photographers and videographers get out of control, they make personal brand all about the visuals. It's more than just the visuals. It's not just photos and videos. It's not just selfies and constant glamour shots. It's not always having a YouTube channel, because you don't actually need one to be a personal brand. I've got a YouTube channel. I post to it every so often. Lately, it's just mainly been live streams. And it's more about value over style. And by style, I mean the hyper-produced, amazingly high production values, very, very beautiful photos are not needed to become a personal brand. You may choose that as part of who you believe you are. I know that's not me. When I sit in a photo shoot, I feel a little awkward because I feel like I'm being very performative and not being myself. But then occasionally I'll sit down with some photographers like Himanshu Rai, for instance, is very good at, it's my partner. So of course he's very good at capturing the essence of who I am and making me feel comfortable in that process. Another one is Georgia Politis, the corporate headshot photographer in Darwin, has this amazing ability to connect with people and bring out something that they go, wow, I can't believe that's what I look like. And you do. It's just it's a different interpretation through a different lens. So whilst, yes, the visuals are important in a way, they are not the core of what you're doing. It's more than just that. It can be a whole lot of things you do off camera that count as much towards your personal brand as the visuals do. And what we're talking about here is long format content. A lot of visuals seem to focus on single images or short format videos. A personal brand is someone who goes beyond just that. That's the easy stuff, right? The hard stuff is creating articles and content that is long format, that goes into expertise building, because expertise isn't shown through a 15-second video. That gets attention, but then the expertise will come from longer format, where you can go into a bit more depth about what it is and how you share and communicate what it is. Then there's networking, of course. Everyone seems to hate networking. No one likes it. It's very unnatural, but God, I tell you what, it's so effective when you get it going. I will never downplay networking because it has been the cornerstone of everything I've been able to build, is having those networks online. I bought a cafe based upon a Facebook group that I was networked to someone in that Facebook group, and they suggested that connection to me. And that has been the biggest decision I ever made in my life. Has grown to retail stores, 3 cafes, a whole little a little retail empire that's starting to build, right? And word of mouth. A good personal brand is someone that gets referred to other people without thinking. If you have a good experience with a client, that client will tell others, but it goes beyond just those who've worked with you. It also goes to those who have seen you in action. Now, things like exactly what I'm doing here today, live streams, workshops, webinars, anything where you do a Q&A, something where you turn up and people see that you are very good at communicating what it is you do. Pretty much authenticity over glamour is probably the easiest way to explain this. You bring yourself first. So 88% of consumers, according to some recent studies, have said that they seek authentic brands first. And that's certainly come into Gen Z. I know in millennials as well. It's less about what looks glossy and pretty and what speaks to me. What is that product speaking to me as opposed to that product over there? And this is why we're seeing a lot of makeup brands failing, the big international ones, because small niche brands that target very specific kinds of people are what are taking that market share away. And we're seeing that in coffee. We're seeing that in food, consumables, fashion, jewelry. A lot of the big brands are simply just not keeping up with that niche. The example, I think of Celeste, right? Celeste is an example. She runs a small accounting business, very camera shy, not someone who likes getting in front of a camera. But what she does instead of getting in front of a camera is bringing her weekly tax tips that she brings as a written article to her website, to LinkedIn, to Facebook, and then posts small snippets of that throughout the week. Now, she may start doing that. That gets her some trust. Her long format stuff enables her to be more trusted than just the little tiny social media posts. But she can then take that sort of thing and turn that into video later once she gets a little bit more confident and is liking having herself seen on camera a bit more. We'll talk about credibility and authority. Credibility is key because trust underpins any sort of effort you're going to go out there to do, particularly if you're working in this sort of professional services or something that's not a particular, like a physical product. Failure is something that you should be sharing. I know that the instinct is to not share your failures and only to share what you're brilliant at and what your excuses are, what your excessive successes are. But when you share your failures, it builds trust because people can see, oh, they're at least honest about where they've come from, and that goes back into your into your things you've been good at, things you've been bad at, things you've completely and utterly failed at as well. So one of the top traits is trust when it comes to how people choose to work with people in business, particularly in services. Trust is everything. And 60% of business-to-business procurement professionals rank trust as the reason why they would deal with someone over someone else. So how do you build that credibility? One of the ways is consistency. Consistency between your promises and what you deliver. Consistency between when you say you're going to do things and when you do those things. Consistency between turning up each day, each week, each month, or whatever the cadence of posting online you want to do is, and making sure you deliver that. It also means expertise. Now, you're not just talking about failure. Naturally, you do talk about success. I very sheepishly talk about successes. I don't like to dwell on them too much because it seems a bit boasty. But what I will do is share the stories of how I got to somewhere, rather than saying, "Look at me, wealth." I don't have all that much wealth, but I don't like doing that. What I like to do is share the story of how I got to a certain outcome, and then your testimonials, your reviews, the things that other people are saying about you, recommendations on LinkedIn and Facebook, those are like a little shot in the arm that give you that little bit extra to work with. You establish authority by positioning yourself in your niche. I'm posting something very, very triggering on Thursday morning. I just wrote it this morning. It's coming out Thursday morning. It's going to trigger a few people, but it's what I truly thought about when I woke up in a bad mood this morning, and I wrote it down a number of times, sort of obsessed over whether I should post it, and it's going out. I don't care. I do care, but I'm doing it anyway. And that's all about this. It's about putting yourself in a position where you are the expert, because you are the expert, not because you're pretending to be expert, not because you're a 19-year-old life coach. It's all about positioning yourself somewhere where you can confidently and competently deliver on your expertise. And you do this by sharing your insights, sharing your knowledge regularly. And my theory is you share everything, because there's nothing you or I don't know that can't be Googled, right? So share those things out there. The whole idea of IP, or having some kind of your special framework or special way of doing things, like, people are going to work that out for themselves anyway. On a planet of 8 billion people interconnected through an electronic means, there's nothing you're going to come up with that's truly unique apart from who you are. The whole idea is to make you the go-to person for your specialty, for your niche, for the thing that you do. 93% of people prefer to do business with those who share their values. So what you would do is express your values. If you have a value, particularly towards a political cause, or to an environmental cause, or to diversity, equality, and inclusion, then you talk about that. You add your thoughts to it. Now, this is you could turn some people off, but the reality is you choose who it is you want to work with based upon what you present out there of yourself. If you only produce content that says, I do a thing, then anyone who's looking for that thing will come to you, whether you agree with them or they agree with you or not. That means you're going to have some bad days where you're working with people whose values you don't align with, and you're being asked to do work that you really don't feel good about doing. If you're very clear about what those values are, you then tend to attract those who align with you, and those who don't align with you, you tend to repel them. And it's a good thing to repel people sometimes. I'm going to repel a lot of people on Thursday when my post goes out at 11 a.m. Australian Central Standard Time. But I'm okay with that, because I can't work with everybody, and I can't expect everybody to like me. And I'm at that age now where I don't care if everybody doesn't like me. I'm more concerned about working with the people that I want to work with, that align with my vision and my mission moving forward. So credibility that comes with you putting your values out there and living those values, that's what drives your sales. That's what drives your leads. And it drives people coming back to you because they do align with you, and you consistently show up as someone who does align with them too. Now, thought leadership is something that comes up a lot on LinkedIn, and this is where we have ideas of our own. Thought leadership is more than just regurgitating quotes from Simon Sinek and repackaging them with your logo underneath them. I see so many people on LinkedIn doing this. It's really about having ideas, putting them out there. I had a chat with someone last night who was saying, how do you come up with these ideas all the time? It's because I've got a lot of thoughts. I've got a lot of ideas. I've got a lot of things that take me a while to coalesce into something that I can write and put out there. But the pure amount of them every day comes from reading a lot, consuming a lot of media, learning a lot, having a hell of a lot of conversations, a lot of interaction with people during the week. That's where ideas come from. It's because you're active. You're not sitting alone in your home office going, how can I make this? How can I make this smell nice? Or how can I make my desk feel more aligned with my Zen attitude? It's you've got to get around people. Or at least if you can't get around people, get around the opinions of others. That's how you'll form your own opinions. You also have thought leadership when you solve real problems that people have. So you can go and see what a problem is, and you go solve that problem. You become a bit of an expert in that problem. You don't become a thought leader until you express what it is you do, what your approach is. And that's what positions you as a leader, because you're doing it when 99 out of 100 other people are not. And that's the reality of LinkedIn. It's about 1% of people on the platform ever post anything. So if you're out there posting, you're out there sharing your expertise, you become the default. You become the first chosen because you're the person who's visible to your network. Why be a thought leader? It brings credibility, and you were getting people who are choosing you not just because of what you do, but because of the fact that you appear to be the expert in the room. It attracts people who want to partner with you. It attracts people who want to talk to you on the radio, who want to invite you to their conferences. It differentiates you from other people, and that's what you really want to do. You show thought leadership through sharing content frequently about your area of expertise. You're not going out all over the place. You are staying within your lane. You offer unique perspectives, whether they're from you or they're from others, but you share them anyway. And then you can comment on those. One of the things you can do is go to the posts of other people on platforms like Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn and add your thoughts in the comments. By consistently doing that, you show up to a lot more people and you're showing some degree of thought leadership, whether you agree, whether you disagree, or whether you just want to add something more to the conversation, another way of thinking. And then engage in industry discussions, whether that's on panels, at presentations, whether it is in forums, whether it is just on social media posts. One way to get your differentiation in place is to understand what your why is and how you can then inspire people to want to choose you. And our personal brand is someone who is chosen based upon who they are, not just what they do. So you need to talk a bit more about not just what you do, but why you do it. If you've got some kind of vision or mission or some kind of push behind you that gets you to do these things, share that. Share your passion, your purpose. I frequently share my whole theory around that. I believe that only business can save the world. And I've got a massive thesis around that. But when it comes down to it, I believe that only business can save the world. So therefore, that colors everything that I do. What is your thing? That's mine. What is your thing? Think about that. What is that one statement, that one driving vision you've got? It could be family. It could be anything. Just look for what that is. Once you've got that, all these things tend to fall into place much more easily. And then when you've shared that, the why of what you do, your passion, your purpose, and people will trust you, specifically those who align with you. But something else actually happens there too. Even people who don't align or don't agree with you will still understand who you are and why and what you do. I could be very close friends with a religious fundamentalist, and I am a friend closely with a religious fundamentalist, despite being a middle-aged gay guy, because I understand them. I know where they're coming from because they are honest about what displeases them about my life. I am honest with them about what displeases me about their life. And we have come to this place where we actually go, well, now that's out of the way. Let's get on with our friendship and what we do business with. People buy why you do it, not what. But it's not only people who agree and align with you. Sometimes it's people who just respect you because you had the guts to say what that was. Now, as we come to a bit of a close, product businesses and service businesses are a little bit different. For product-based businesses, your product brand tends to take center stage rather than you as a person. You could be an influencer that is the front person of your business. Having a founder's story can add some human value, and that may be where the personal brand comes in a little bit. Is that someone like Melanie Perkins at Canva? She's indelibly linked with that, but 98 out of 100 people wouldn't know who Melanie Perkins is. They only know Canva. So it might be more like Richard Branson, for instance, and Virgin, very much linked to each other and very commonly linked. Elon Musk, Tesla, Jeff Bezos, Amazon, Ella Bache for Ella Bache, or Coco Chanel for Chanel, both personal brands and also product brands as well. The personal touch, though, will set you apart. And this is where we go into more service-based businesses where you are the brand. That's it. Your name is what your brand is in most cases. And in service businesses, 62% of businesses that are around in service-based businesses are solo businesses. Just one person, a solopreneur working on their own, often from home or from a co-working space or from their own little shared office environment. So you have this power to stand out simply because you don't have to conform to someone else's corporate brand or someone else's idea of what your brand should be. You get to be that yourself. Clients then don't just buy your expertise, which you need to have that. You need to obviously be competent at what you do, but they also buy into who you are, your personality, who you are rather than just what you're capable of doing. Because let's face it, there's going to be 100,000 people out on the internet at least who can do what it is you do. So why would someone choose you? And then as a personal brand, you've got to have some kind of strategy. And this is where you tailor your strategy, whether you've got a product where you might highlight a founder story, where you have a set of things that link that together, a set of tactics that you use that lead you to some kind of goal. For a service, you may have qualifications. You may have what are all the little things that make you credible. You would notice that when I first started this webinar, I said who I am and some of the people I work with. That's me showcasing social proof or qualifications to show you that I'm not just some random guy showing up on the internet and going, hey, I've got opinions. I'm showing you, look, these are some of the people I work with who, because they pay me, trust what it is I say. And by being consistent, then that's another strategy of its own, to have some kind of consistency that shows your authenticity. Then you've got a reason for people to not only know who you are, but come to like who you are, and then finally trust who you are to be able to do business with. Because, you need a lot of touch points for a business to business to gain a new client. It's not just, a couple of touch points. They see an ad on TV and then maybe see a billboard down the road. Now, yes, I need to buy those baked beans. Now, when the business to business is often got to do with, 100 different touch points. Sometimes I like to think it's about at least 70 touch points before somebody actually goes, yeah, I want to work with them. It could take 73 years of social media posting in some cases before somebody actually engages you to do something with them. So let's bring it all together. There's a journey you're going to go on to when you're going into personal branding. So you've got to keep working at it. You've got to keep nurturing at it. So the whole idea would be to set yourself a personal brand goal that is achievable and realistic for who you are today, not who you plan to be in 3 years' time, because that may not happen. You may not be able to reach that aspirational view. So if your values are more to do with what your aspirations are, come back to the present and say, this is who I am. I will be this person in 3 years' time as well, because I was this person 3 years ago. So that's pretty much going to be who I am. It may not be agreeable, but you don't have to be agreeable. I think my friend Mia Fileman is a perfect example of that. She's not the most agreeable person. She's not someone who comes out and just goes, yay, girls, let's go. She's someone who calls out crap when it happens, and she's not afraid to be disliked by people. And I freaking love her for that. That's why we connect so well. Then you need to connect with people through being you. And that's what allows you to shine. By being genuine, you tend to have a lot more fun, and you're so much more likely to keep coming back and doing it again and again and again. But occasionally refresh things. Like even I, as confident as I come across and as much as I do these presentations, I still refresh things. I'll look at my slide decks, I'll look at my branding, I'll look at my photography, I'll look at the way I write and the mix of things I do, and even the products that I sell or the services I sell, and I'll refresh them occasionally, because I get bored occasionally doing the same thing all the time. If you're saying the same thing every time you get onto a screen, you're going to get bored of that. So you need to refresh it a little bit. And then also, engage with your audience. Don't just do, like right now I'm doing a broadcast, right? There's no engagement going on. Now, what will happen is I'll get back to my LinkedIn profile and see these comments, on my YouTube and see comments. Make sure you follow up on those things, because that's every bit about a personal brand. Because if you're just a brand like Heinz or I don't know, Mitsubishi or Toyota, they often don't respond to things because they just simply can't, because the questions being asked are too hard for a person in a outsourced call center to answer. So they just leave it, right? And the one thing I would take away from this is just, you need to maintain your relevance. You can't just learn something once and then expect to be just talking about that for the rest of your life. Things change. We've seen AI just upend everything. Before that, crypto did it. Before that, COVID did it. Before that, the web, the internet did it. Mobile phones did it. Stay current in the field you're in. Don't just keep repeating the same old things you've been repeating for the last 10 years. That's what life coaches do. They do not veer off anything they're doing. They don't stay relevant to their field or relevant to their incoming audience. Stay on brand. Maintain some standards of how you present yourself. It doesn't mean you have to be really great at it or really polished at it, but maintain at least something consistent. If you're going to be rough and ready and raw, be rough and ready and raw. That's why people will love you. If you are polished, pruned, and plucked, then do that. But just maintain that level if you can. And by all means, deliver on the things you promise. Understand the power of storytelling, relatability, connection, impact, and humanity. Telling stories is what sets a personal brand apart from a corporate brand. Corporate brands tend to tell you what to think, what to do, what to buy. A personal brand tends to share a story that says as much about them as it does about you. And take action. Step into what this is. Learn more about personal branding. It doesn't have to be from me. It can be from just about anyone. There's lots of great people out there, lots of great materials out there that can show you through that process. Keep yourself in practice by implementing some kind of guidelines around personal branding. Again, not necessarily from me. There's tons of people out there who've got that information. And then really just let that happen over a number of years. You're not going to develop a personal brand and see the benefits from it today. It's going to take lots of touch points, especially if you're starting from scratch. Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. I think it's this afternoon everywhere in Australia, nearly this afternoon in Western Australia. Thank you, despite whatever time it is. You can see more things like this come up at the website darwininnovationhub.com.au. And of course, you can keep following along with me on things like, LinkedIn primarily, that's where I am. But you can see this on YouTube, Facebook, wherever you want to go, or just send me an email. I'm very easy to find. Just Google me, and I'll see you in the next presentation we do. Thank you.